be careful," I said. "Promise." I'd been handling a robot for years, so I wasn't worried about how to move the robot arms and hands and fingers. What I was worried about was the welding torch in the robot's right hand. My job was to seal on a square, thin sheet of titanium about the size of a human's palm, like slapping a bandage over a cut. Except it wasn't that simple. In the fingers of my robot's left hand was a thin rod of titanium alloy. Because it wasn't pure titanium, it melted at a slightly lower temperature than titanium. I needed to touch the rod and the flame of the welding torch together at the edge of the titanium patch, then melt the tip of the rod so that liquid titanium alloy dribbled over the edge of the patch. As the titanium alloy cooled and solidified again, it would form a seal, almost like using a glue gun. Once I'd sealed off all sides of the square patch, my job would be finished. Trouble was, the welding torch flame generated heat at over 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit, and I hadn't used a welding torch much. In fact, this was only my second time. My first had been on Mars, under the dome, in practice sessions with my friend Rawling McTigre, the director of the Mars project. That was over 40 million miles away. I didn't give myself any more time to worry. This hole had to be sealed immediately. I let myself drift closer to the hull. The robot wheels made a dull clank as they hit the hull. It wasn't a sound that reached the audio components of the robot's body, however. Sound can't travel through a vacuum. Instead, I heard it through the slight vibrations that traveled up the robot body. I was ready. The titanium patch had a temporary glue to keep it in place as I welded. I pushed the patch down, and the glue held. Under the lights of millions of stars, I began to weld. What I couldn't adjust to was the intensity of the flame's light. "Dad," I said into the radio, "you need to roll the ship a little so I am not in the shadows." The sun was on the other side. Its light would make it easier for me to see what I needed to do. Seconds later, the ship rolled, just slightly. In space, it takes too much fuel to overcorrect any sudden movements. It also takes very little change of direction for the movement to be felt. The robot body started to slide along the hull. Without thinking, as if I were in gravity instead of outer space, I put out a hand to balance myself, the robot's right hand, the one with the torch. The hand hit the hull, and the torch bumped loose. This wasn't a total disaster. In the floating weightlessness of space, I could catch it before it went another 10 feet. Except 2 feet away was the hydrogen tank. I made a slow-motion grab for the torch, but it flipped end over end, in agonizing slowness just out of reach. I could see it happening, but was helpless to stop it. The torch flame touched the side of the hydrogen tank. All 2,400 degrees Fahrenheit of flame concentrated on high-pressure gas inside. The metal of the tank glowed briefly. Silently I screamed, but it was too late. Before I could think any more thoughts, all existence disappeared in a blinding flash far brighter than any star. Chapter 2. I spoke into darkness. "Dad, I've got a headache." I could easily picture where I was, in the robot lab on the Moonracer spaceship. The spaceship got its name because when it was first built, people said it would easily outrace the moon, which it could. The lab held a computer and a bed. I was on that bed, where my spine plug was able to make an X-ray wave connection to the computer hard drive. The real robots, there were 2, were stored in a cargo bay that gave them immediate access to the exterior of the ship. Although I had used my robot frequently on the surface of Mars, the only reason the robots would be needed during the Moonracer's journey to Earth was during an emergency situation. "Headache?" Dad chuckled. "You're lucky you don't have more than that. Welding torches and high-pressured hydrogen fuel tanks don't make for a good mix. I was monitoring your progress in here. You, of all people, know that the virtual reality software doesn't mess around." I knew that Dad was holding the headset, which he had already removed. It had been blocking all sound from reaching my ears. Arms at my side, I was still strapped to the laboratory bed and needed